Fallout 4 just hit an incredible milestone. The first, the proper remake mods had a partial release, where modders released a fully recreated version of Fallout 3's Point Lookout DLC. This being the very first time we had a full-fledged remade experience in Fallout 4's engine. And this was insanely well done. Well done to the point you could actually follow guides for the original Point Lookout. Look up a Fallout 3 guide and it would work with the fan-made recreated version. And the story even has an amazing ending with some of the main developers on the project actually getting hired by Double 11 to now work on Fallout 76. Okay, so that's all amazing. What's the problem here? Unfortunately, this amazing story has a pretty sad part for a good chunk of you, and that is it's not available on consoles. To me, Fallout 4 ranks very highly as far as the best Fallout games ever because of how easy and accessible it made modding the game. There's an in-game mod browser and even an in-game mod manager, or at least kind of. And of course, the biggest feature of all, console modding, which is simply revolutionary, and even for a bunch of PC and console-based mods, the console version has more downloads. The Fallout 4 and Skyrim console modding scenes are massive. I think there's a lot of people who just stay on PC and don't realize how big some of those download numbers get. And despite some huge achievements being hit in the Fallout 4 modding scene as of recently, Fallout 4 mods have a lingering and growing problem of console mod space. I am asked about this problem on literally a daily basis at this point, whether it be how to actually get more mod space on consoles, or even is Bethesda going to increase the space limit. And there's honestly a bit of a funny story here. You see, for Fallout 4 on consoles, you're only actually able to download 2 gigabytes worth of mods, which as mods get better and better, that actually adds up very quickly. As the game matures and we start to see some of these incredible DLC-sized mods coming out, although they technically could be on consoles, they literally just don't fit. That is the only restriction. Lately, I've been covering a plethora of DLC-sized mods for Fallout 4, and just a lot of these aren't on console. Sim Settlements 2 is probably the best mod for Fallout 4, just full stop, and it actually is available on console. But to make this a reality, these devs had to make some serious concessions with the console version, painstakingly editing their mods to make this a reality. And naturally, if you do download this on consoles, it'll use the vast majority of your mod space, so more of a one mod experience for Fallout 4 rather than an ultra modded experience. Which, if you are wondering why the mod space limit is the way it is, it largely just seems like Bethesda picked a number, and 2 gigabytes seemed like a good one back in 2015 when they made that decision. If you're wondering why they can't increase it, the official answer is there's no ideal way to update the mod size limits for Xbox One or PlayStation 4. Replacing a partition has wide-ranging impact and potentially jeopardizes the saves you have that are currently dependent on mods. So they actually can increase it. This is something they have the ability to do, but in doing so, they would be corrupting save games and mod lists, which is a bit of a larger issue. And overall, this just kind of sucks, because it seems like Bethesda very quickly realized this wasn't actually enough space. Skyrim Special Edition released just a year later and has more than double the space with 5 gigabytes in total. Now, as time does progress and we get better and better mods, even that is starting to become not nearly enough, especially with large-scale mods. But obviously having a full 5 gigabytes gives them a lot more flexibility, and I think that's one of the big reasons that Skyrim on consoles is just way more of a success compared to Fallout 4, not to mention the numerous re-releases that have come. PC modding is always going to be better due to the script extender improving modability, and that just isn't a thing on console. But with Fallout 4 modding in particular, it does feel like things are specifically hampered due to a very arbitrary 2 gigabyte limit, which now, 7 years after the release, is a huge limit on how moddable the console version is overall. And one of the most insulting parts about all of this is Fallout 4 on consoles is a pretty massive download now at 54 gigabytes. And that's just for the base game. That's not including any of the DLC. With Game Pass, you have to buy the DLC for Fallout 4 separately. It only actually gives you the base game. And that download size for Fallout 4 on consoles at 54 gigabytes is actually pretty large, about 20 gigabytes larger than my PC version, which has all of the DLC included, except the HD texture pack. And do you want to know why the console version of Fallout 4 is so much of a larger download compared to the PC version? On consoles, you have to download all of the Creation Club content even if you never buy it. So on your hard drive on consoles, you have a ton of Creation Club content that you just have to pay to be able to access. It's there on the hard drive, but you can't actually do anything with it. That just isn't a thing on PC. You only download it when you buy it. Which, okay, this isn't that uncommon. Many games actually do this with their DLCs. But when you have 20 gigabytes of Creation Club content that you may or may not own, taking up a ton of hard drive space, but then you're also restricted to a tenth of that with just 2 gigabytes of mod space, things do feel pretty bad overall. It really feels like the only solution we could see here is maybe one day Bethesda releases a Fallout 4 Special Edition, similar to Skyrim Special Edition, a light remaster of the game. And this Fallout 4 Special Edition could come with increased mod space on consoles. And honestly, I bet a ton of people would pay for just that, because there are absolutely some amazing mods that players on consoles are missing out on. In particular, Fallout 4 on consoles got way more moddable with the onset of the next generation of consoles. The game runs better than ever on an Xbox Series X and has even gotten separate optimizations around that. Fortunately, you can't actually mod it that much more than you could in your Xbox One because you don't have that much more extra space. As of late, there have been some rumors of Creation Club making a return or some kind of paid mod service coming back. This discussion and the rumors have been popping up all over some of the Fallout modding discords. As of right now, we do know that there is a bunch of unreleased Creation Club content for Fallout 4, just kind of sitting there, so maybe that fits in. But you have to imagine that now, in the 11th hour, just before Starfield, if Creation Club does come back or some other kind of paid mods, it's going to be a precursor for something they have planned for Starfield. Basically like a beta test on Fallout 4 or Skyrim, with most of the money being made via Starfield. And to me, this makes a ridiculous amount of sense, especially when you consider Microsoft's broader business model. Many people won't actually be buying Starfield. They're going to be buying Game Pass and getting access to Starfield via that. And even further, immediately after Starfield releases, Bethesda Game Studio is moving on. They're working on The Elder Scrolls 6 and they're working on Fallout 5. Of course, I'm sure Starfield will get traditional DLCs, but this game is meant to last a while, and paid mods or a system like this offer a way to keep the game monetized for literally decades if they want to. A constant flow of content to serve those Game Pass members forever. And the framework is literally there because it is what they have going on with Minecraft Marketplace. This technically being a mix of both free and paid content, but it's definitely more on the paid side, and it's created by both community members and official employees. Basically a simpler way to have simpler mods in a more official and safe capacity in Minecraft. And to me, a system like this just seems like it makes a lot of sense for Starfield, and you have to imagine Microsoft and Bethesda are considering it. This isn't all bad. Obviously, it's a great way for modders to finally start making some money off of their work. And as long as we do still have extensive free modding, which I think will be a thing with Starfield, I don't see any indication that that wouldn't be a thing. You could just choose to ignore some of the paid alternatives as long as there's not consistent updates breaking mods again. But to the original point of this video, it does feel incredibly unfortunate to see the serious limitation put on console modding. At this point, we don't know what happens next with Starfield and modding on console, but with how successful it has been for Fallout 4 and Skyrim, you have to imagine it's there, although no real details are confirmed yet. And as Fallout 4 mods continue to get better and better, it just feels really unfortunate as I constantly look to see if they're on console and they're constantly not, and then I keep getting messages around this. But either way, when it comes to these Creation Club rumors and even Starfield modding, I have to imagine we'll find out later this year. With that said though, hopefully you guys found this one informative or enjoyable. It's one of the less fun videos to make, but I feel like a message I definitely wanted to talk about. And with that, I thank you all again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.